Hello and welcome to our first episode of a new podcast we'll be featuring here at Thornton Academy, and it's called Trojan Talk. Now, many of you have maybe heard of Trojan Talk before, as we had a video web series with Jack Webb a few years ago, but we're bringing it back in a podcast style, and eventually also some audio and video as well. And hopefully this will be kind of the first of a long line of podcasts here at Thornton Academy. I am Jeff Christenbury. I am a teacher here at Thornton Academy and also run TATV, live streaming, sports and everything else, and also work in the marketing department, and also am a dorm parent here at TA. And today the co-host here is Zach Taranko. Zach, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, so I am Zach Taranko. I am a sophomore here at Thornton Academy. This is my second year at TATV with Mr. Christenbury and Mr. Paul Safer, and I'm excited to be a part of a podcast. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, and happy to be a part of this one.
Now, we know there are a lot of podcasts out there, literally thousands, and some are very popular, and many you haven't heard of. So talk a little bit about why you were interested in general about doing podcasting.
Well, I mean, it's fun to talk about sports, both like at a professional level, but also at a high school level. And I knew, because in my career I want to, keep going with broadcasting and journalism, and I knew that having something like a podcast would not only be fun, but something I could put on my resume, something I could, use and continue throughout my life. And it's always fun to have some arguments and talk about other people about opinions about sports. And I am very opinionated, especially about the NHL and NFL as well.
Exactly. So that's going to be great. Is we have a lot of different interests and backgrounds. So that's a good segue into talking about what is Trojan Talk going to be. Well, it's going to start off with sports general. We're going to talk about Thornton Academy sports, of course, the main sports landscape, as well as some professional sports as well, and maybe some college as well. But we're hoping that as people get more interested in it and students get to learn about this, that they want to expand and do some things about residential life, maybe about arts, what it's like to be a student here in 2021, especially during the COVID pandemic. So we'll definitely talk about all those issues. We'll have definitely some guests, some students, and as also some sports guests. We'll have some coaches on, some players. Also, I know a lot of people in the kind of local sports world as well. But we'll have definitely some student-focused issues. So we're going to be a little bit all over the map, but that's kind of what good podcasts are all about. So let's just get right to it. So we're going to start with TA Sports and in general. Obviously, you take us back 14 months, and the landscape of the world, and especially for sports, is a lot different. Thornton Academy boys basketball is just coming off a very, very close, heartbreaking loss in the state championship game. And the spring sports season was looking pretty bright. And then obviously in early March, everything kind of came to a halt. So Zach, you participate in sports both at TA and outside. And what has it been like being an athlete during COVID?
Well, I mean, it's hard. It's, not a lot of kids really don't enjoy it. I get the feel. I've been a part of soccer, and it was hard to, put a mask on and go out and practice every day. When you just wanted to run around and be out whenever you can. And it was hard because, you get emails all the time, and, coach going, oh, COVID, we're not going to be at the practice today, can't have a game today. For soccer, I think I only had one game. The rest of them were canceled due to COVID, and it was pretty unfortunate. But I mean, as you said, for other teams, it's a lot harder. I mean, the boys basketball team this winter, great team. Peyton Jones, Dylan Griffin couldn't go and play in a playoff and go for a state title, which is sucks for them. But I think that kids here are trying to see the best in it, and I think that that's what they've done, and take the time that they have, because whatever they can have is good for them and to improve. And so I think especially with those bigger sports like basketball and football, those guys are just trying their best, and guys and girls are to enjoy what they have. Talk
about specifically about wearing masks while participating. I know going to the gym, having to wear a mask when you're especially doing cardio is just awful. It's not fun at all. I can't wait for the day they say that you can ditch that, hopefully soon. But what is it like actually competing with the mask? We see them pulling down. They get pulled down a lot, and you have to be reminded for it. What is it like being out there, especially later in the game? I mean, let's just be honest. Like, these things get soaked. You sweat. I mean, what is it like wearing these things? Third, fourth quarter, or second half of a match.
Nobody really wants to wear them. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Even when I was playing, for TA in the couple games we had in the fall, I pulled it down. I didn't wear it over my face and nose. It's hard. It's hard to breathe. It's hard to remember to keep it up. And I think that the most important part is it's all about safety, and so I think that people are doing their best. But yeah, it's not very fun to try to keep it over your face the entire time. It's especially hard to talk to teammates. That's an important part of a lot of sports, and
but it's a lot easier probably to not hear the coach if they're yelling at you, right?
Yeah.
You say, "Oh, sorry, coach, you had a mask on. I couldn't hear you yell at me from across the way."
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think at least not in soccer, but in other sports, I don't think many coaches have had any problems or referees talking about keep your mask up, put it over your face, and people don't really try to argue with it much. But I think that a lot of people wish it wasn't like that. I know that recently, I think the CDC just changed the rules, so now sports outside don't have to wear masks, which will be something nice. But yeah, it was not very fun, and it's really hard, especially depending on the environment you're playing in. So you're outside and it's cold, your face is gonna get cold, it's hard to breathe, so you don't want to have to wear a mask.
Right.
Even when you're inside and it's super hot, you're sweaty, you want to bring it down. So there isn't a lot of good conditions to wear a mask and do a physical activity.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned the CDC guidance. So yeah, so basically, if you're competing, whether you're vaccinated or not, you can ditch the mask. And also for spectators, if you can maintain 6 feet of distance between somebody who's not in your household, something like that, which is just great. I mean, I think that everyone wants to get back a little bit to normal. And kind of a good segue in talking about what has it been like going to these games? So in the fall, there was no spectators allowed. Same with the winter season. We did a lot of live streams here of all the sub-varsity games. But so let's talk a little bit about basketball, because when you're at Hill Stadium, there's no one there. It's weird, but it's a huge place. But when you're in basketball, that's different because that's the crazy close atmosphere. So I'll just talk about my experience first. So we did all the games. It was bizarre. Like, that's the only way I can put it. So much of it came down to how hype both teams were. Okay, so we had some games, both boys and girls basketball, where either TA or the opposing team was really into it, chanting, cheering, and you really felt almost a little bit normal. And then there are other games where it's like nothing. And I won't mention any teams, but there's a team we played late in the year where literally some of the girls basketball players on the other team were on their cell phones in the back row. Like, it was just like, let's get through this, like let's get done. And I think for me the biggest problem. Now, I will say this. Selfishly, the live streaming was so much easier because there was no fans around. We didn't have to worry about everyone right around us hearing what we're saying, or worrying about trying to move people to set up. So that was great. That was selfish of us. But in general, I remember there was a few games, boys basketball games, where it's like, this would have been such a great, crazy atmosphere. Like, this would have been such a cool game, close game, and then we just got robbed of it. And again, it's like, we were able to play, and I know that the athletes were happy to be able to play. But you mentioned no playoffs, which was kind of too bad, especially for boys basketball. But for me, it was like, I'm glad that it's over. We're back at fans outside, even with some restrictions, because I don't want to go through a season like that again.
Yeah, it's not very fun, and I mean, I know a lot of people only see this on the professional level, but fans do play a factor in games.
Big time.
It's hard to sit in an arena or play in an arena and all you can hear is the other people, the other players, and you just gotta play your own game, more like a scrimmage, which really isn't that fun for many people. But yeah, as you said, it was a lot easier to live stream. But I mean, there were times where like we got to whisper during, when someone's shooting a free throw because we don't want to talk too bad because they can hear us all the way up in the stands, and that was a little different. But yeah, as you said, I'm glad it's over, and hopefully next year, like, everyone could be back. We're gonna have fans, can be loud.
Definitely, and we heard some things from coaches that it's something that you want, that it's really good TV/live streaming. Not sure if the coaches always want, not swears or anything like that, but yelling at certain players or something, you get to hear that. And we do, it's always a certain time where it's like, okay, we can hear someone that's not in the game, just one of the support staff talking or something. We had to tell them not to say anything because he could be heard all over the place. So so that wasn't a great situation. But moving on to how COVID affected sports teams. And specifically, we'll talk about this year. So we'll start off in the fall. So it seems like the season that was affected the most was football, because they were basically doing glorified 7-on-7s and basically had no season whatsoever. The football team was looking pretty strong, coming off a state championship loss to Bonnie Eagle in 2019. And then so most of the other teams got to have at least some games the fall. And for the winter, of course, we saw no boys basketball playoffs, but we kind of want to talk a little bit about this last spring season where there was no season whatsoever. And let's talk about boys lacrosse. So boys lacrosse, two straight Class A state championships going into last year, and they were unable to compete whatsoever. But the question always is, for me, it's like how was the team going to be? They would have lost a ton of players. Like that second state championship team, they had a huge senior class. And talking to Coach Hersey, he also said, they would have had to win games a different way. But I'm just curious what you think. Like the chance at a three-peat, just imagine if you're a player and you can three-peat, and all of a sudden, especially if you're a senior, boom, you're robbed of it and never get to play again.
Yeah, I mean, three-peats are something. It's a different category that people wish they could. People want to be a part of. As you said, that three-peat team wouldn't have had a lot of the players from the first two state champion title runs. But even this year, if you look at the team, it's like there's so many freshmen and sophomore, and the first two teams were basically all juniors and seniors,
right?
Because they didn't have space for those younger guys, and it's obviously they had so many good players that worked so well together. They didn't really have to get in those tight situations and play those really tough games against many teams. But yeah, last year, obviously, it sucks they couldn't go for the three-peat. I mean, personally, I think they technically still are up for the three-peat.
You still count them as a two-time defending state
champions.
Yep.
I still count it as they could go for their third straight because nobody else technically won. It's not like somebody else was able to take it. Yeah, I mean, I think that I can never count a team out because I don't know how the season went. But I don't think that they would have been as good as the last two. And
no, I agree. I think talking to Coach Hersey too, he said instead of winning games, 16 to 13, we would have had to win games 8-5. That's and I think honestly that this year, if you look towards this year, they've had to win some close games, low scoring. So in looking at this spring as well, so specifically for boys lacrosse, they've had 2 losses. They have a really tough schedule early on. Falmouth, South Portland, Scarborough. They have Cape coming up, which could be a little bit ugly. Not gonna lie, because Cape is rolling right now. But they've had some really low scoring games, and I think for all of these teams, I mean, I heard of a team, that you're trying to find the right positions because you basically deleted a whole year. So either you were a sophomore last time you played, probably not even on varsity, but now you're supposed to be a senior captain or something, or you were a freshman. Probably on a freshman team, and now you're supposed to be playing at the varsity level. So just finding the right positions, finding goalies, finding certain midfielders can be tough. I think watching the boys lacrosse game, they lost a tight one to Scarborough, and then they lost also to Falmouth, which Falmouth was looking for revenge after a couple state championship losses. But the big thing is the youth. I mean, the youth is big because and a lot of these kids, the physical nature of it, not getting hit. And I'm curious what you have to think about when you're playing soccer. Like these kids, you're just not used to the contact, and that's almost as important in these contact sports, even in sports like soccer. You just got to get used to being hit, and that can really be a jarring experience when basically you've been sitting inside with kid gloves for over a year, like most of us.
Yeah, and a lot of these kids, I mean, it's not their fault that they weren't ready, not conditioned with preseason, any of that stuff. But I know, doing hockey, the live streams at Bedford Ice Arena, it was a little bit slower than usual hockey seasons because, again, no preseason, they weren't ready, not a lot of practices. You can tell that it's a different level. Not a lot of these guys aren't really ready. I had a chance to talk to Coach Mr. Hersey for a project for school and talking about the team, and he was like, we're not ready, we're not conditioned, so first couple games are these like trial runs, hoping that we can go out and see who's going to score and who's going to be up top and lead the team. And as you said, a lot of guys are having to step into roles they've never been in before,
Yeah, definitely. And so we'll see how their season goes. I mean, I think Coach Hershey's aiming, they're definitely going to be above 500 and hopefully guys progress. I think personally, as I look at the team, I think they're going to be really good next year. They have some guys, Caden True, Bo Preston, a lot of these guys who are younger, they're on second lines maybe. But I think they have a bright future there. I want to ask you too about the craziest position in sports, and for me, it's always been the boys lacrosse goalies. So girls lacrosse, they have goalies as well, but they're really padded up. Same as field hockey, they have a lot of pads, even though it's a very hard ball. Boys lacrosse, they basically don't have anything. Like they basically go padless, like beyond the normal pads. Hockey goalies, again, they got to be a little bit crazy, but they have a lot of pads on as well. So for me, the craziest position in sports is boys lacrosse goalie. 'Cause that ball is hard and it's coming at you really, really fast. So what about you? Do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
I would agree. I mean, they have that, the stick net's a little bit bigger, so they have a little bit more padding. I know a lot of lacrosse is about trying to get in the top corners, bottom corners. You're not, trying to shoot right at the goalie. But yeah, I wouldn't want to stand in a net with no padding on and have to take a 40, 50 mile an hour.
No, more than that. It's like 80, 90 sometimes, And it is interesting because I feel like when I watch games, I don't see the goalies get hit that much.
Yeah.
But I'm sure in practice they get hit a ton. I mean, I've seen the welts on some of the goalies, some of the Patriots in the past there. So that's our little update on TA Sports, and basically each week as we do this, we'll update at one of the different sports teams here. But shout out to baseball and softball, and off to decent starts as well. Of course, the NFL draft. I'm a tired guy this morning because for some reason the NFL draft, I loved the Saturday version. And now, yes, it took 7 hours, but that's because they used to have 15 minutes per pick.
Yeah.
You probably don't remember that, but 10 minutes per pick is fine. They used to do it on a Saturday, and they do at least at least half the draft, like 3 rounds. It would be like a 13-hour day, but this first round would start around noontime on a Saturday. Now, I understand NFL is all about making money, and I don't mind it being on a weeknight, but boy, you can't start the thing at 8:15 because I went to bed at 11:30ish, or maybe a little after that, after watching the Mac Jones stuff, which we'll talk about, and they were only in pick 22.
Yeah,
I have no idea when it ended. There's no way it ended before midnight. So anyway, so that's just my thing, and I think they had a lot of other things that, like the stupid brown chair. I mean, I'm sorry, Roger Goodell is too much of a tryhard. Like, he's not funny. I know he tries. He gets booed up there, and he's like, "Oh, live it up." Like, no, people actually hate you, Roger, because for a lot of reasons, not just Patriots fans. I thought there was too much of that stuff, and also it's a made-for-TV event.
Yeah.
So you saw there's one point right around the Patriots pick where ESPN and NFL Network took long commercial breaks, and then it being like 2 picks behind. Yeah. So the Patriots had already made their pick before they even announced the Jets pick. Yeah. They announced it up. So anyway, lots of no surprises really at the top of the draft. Trevor Lawrence goes number 1. A quarterback goes 1, 2, 3. But let's first talk about our teams. We'll talk about our teams first. So talk about your Atlanta Falcons fan for whatever reason. 28-3. I'm just gonna say that now.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I'm never gonna live that. You're never gonna live that down. But still, Matt Ryan sticking around. And Matt Ryan, again, I'll do a quick thing. Has a Maine connection. Matt Ryan is married to Sarah Marshall, who was a star at Catherine McCauley, which turned into MGA, which now is defunct, but back in the early 2000s. And they both went to Boston College on scholarships and ended up meeting and getting married. So there's a little connection with Matt Ryan, not only to Boston area, but to Maine area. So talk about the Falcons. They had the number 4 pick. People thought maybe Mac Jones, maybe a quarterback, since Matt Ryan is old and I think he has 1 year left in his deal. But talk about who you got, and you definitely got a stud player. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised they picked Kyle Pitts. I mean, that's the highest the tight end's ever been picked in the draft.
Tight end from Florida, yep.
So, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, pretty cool for him to be the highest tight end ever picked. Blah blah blah, all that stuff. I mean, I don't like picking quarterbacks to draft. I think it's stupid. I think that you get the 1 or 2 guys every year who are decent, like Joe Burrow.
Maybe. It's only been 1 year,
Well, yeah, I mean, he got injured, but without an O-line, nothing's going to happen there. Tua Tagovailoa.
Total question mark.
I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who I love just because, he's kind of like a meme. Like
he's been on 25 teams, I think.
Yeah, he's just like, people just like him because he's, throws.
He's smart. He's from Harvard.
Yeah. And, I mean, but like Justin Herbert's like the only guy from last draft who's decent, but not even that great. I don't think picking a quarterback's very good, and I was afraid that we were going to try to rebuild. I'm like, let's just go a couple more years. But I think that with healthy wide receivers in Ridley and Jones, as well as, I mean, because Pitts is a slot threat. He's not a big, burly tight end guy. Right. I think that we can, Matt Ryan's now got some more people he can pass to. Hopefully our defense can pick it up this year. I mean, last year, we were up by 20 points in 5 games and lost all 5 games because we couldn't hold the second half. Hopefully we can have a good season, but I'm not very happy to be in the same division.
Who's your coach now?
It's not. They got rid of Dan Quinn. I have no idea who it is.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Some random offensive coordinator.
Some old coordinator. Yeah. Well, Dan Quinn had outlived his life there, obviously. Yeah. So looking at the top 10 picks, you have Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Kyle Pitts, of course, Jamar Chase, LSU stud. But so the first surprise of the draft was Cincinnati they need an O-line. Like,
Yeah,
I remember,
just
I think it's
can't
Booger
play.
McFarland said it would be like, I forget the term he used, but basically like a dereliction of duty if they didn't pick somebody to protect Joe Burrow and they would go for wide receiver. Now, Jamar Chase is a stud. Okay,
Yeah.
also played with Joe Burrow at LSU. But boy, I mean, and it's not like they can go out and get free agents. I mean, free agency's over.
Yep.
Unless you're going to do a trade, like, and Burrow, I mean, again, I think they said the last time you saw Joe Burrow, his knee was going the sideways because they couldn't block.
Yeah.
So interesting choice there. The Dolphins go for Jalen Waddle from Alabama, a wide receiver. I thought that was a decent pick. The Lions and Panthers kind of go. The Panthers were the first team that, as a Patriots fan, I was like, okay, are they going to go quarterback here? You know, they have Sam Darnold. Actually, today they picked up their 5th-year option on Sam Darnold, so he's going to be there. But they picked Joe Horn out of South Carolina. Again, the Denver Broncos, kind of question mark. There was rumors that could be a landing spot for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
They go with Pat Surtain Jr., or second, I guess, from Alabama. So then you're really thinking, okay, what's going on? Philadelphia Eagles trade up interdivision, which is interesting, with the Cowboys to get Devonta Smith, who's I think is going to be he's a big question mark. I mean, one of the best college players of all time, but boy, playing he's just small. He's a slight little guy. And then you had Justin Fields, of course. So the Bears come up, get Justin Fields, give up quite a bit for it. I think that was a great deal for the Giants to get an extra first-round pick next year. What are your thoughts on Justin Fields as he was a potential landing spot both in Atlanta and in New England, and he ends up in Chicago?
I'm surprised that San Francisco took Trey Lance. I don't like Trey Lance at all. I think he's like a wannabe Carson Wentz. Like, he wants to run the ball, but he wants to be a thrower, and he's never really going to find where he is. I don't think Chicago picked well with Justin Fields. I think that obviously they don't really have any other choice because Trubinsky's the backup for
Buffalo Bills now.
Buffalo Bills, yes, he's backing up.
He's gone. But see the Bears too. Now they have 3 quarterbacks that are all guaranteed money, because they also have Nick Foles, who they signed, and they also have Andy Dalton, who about a month ago they put on Instagram or Twitter saying QB1, which was, I think, ridiculous. But yeah, Fields is a huge question mark. A lot of people say he's got a lot of upside, but for me it was like, okay, as a Patriots fan, I was like, all right, I want a quarterback. I don't care if it's Fields or Mac Jones, and I don't care if one of them becomes a bust. I want something. I don't want Cam Newton as a quarterback again. So when the Bears jumped up, I'm like, okay, they're getting Fields. I'm like, all right, so it's Mac Jones or bust. Next picks after that, the Cowboys go for a linebacker, Micah Parsons, who might be a stud. Chargers go for a tackle, which is smart. And the Jets is an interesting move. So the Jets move up right before the Patriots to 14. Mm-hmm. But the Jets obviously had already picked a quarterback. So the question was, why do they trade up to get an offensive lineman? Because the Cardinals, after the Patriots picked a linebacker, so it's not like it was interesting. Maybe the Cardinals said we're not moving, because after that the Raiders picked another offensive lineman, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But anyway, so the Jets move up. I basically said, okay, well, Mac Jones is going to be there for the Patriots. So Patriots pick Mac Jones. What are my thoughts on it? Well, he's better than Cam Newton.
Oh no,
okay,
not even
close. He's better than Jarrett Stidham. Now, would I have preferred them to pick him in the second round? Yeah, sure, because there's other holes in the Patriots team, especially defensively. Now, of course, when the pick gets made, and you see him, striding, really, he has the interviews, you get really fired up. So Mac Jones, I saw an interesting, Burt Breer, Monday Morning Quarterback, was on NBC Sports Boston last night. He had a great way of putting it. No one's worried about how Mac Jones is going to be year 1, 2, 3. Like, they know he's going to be NFL ready. He's going to be a decent quarterback. The question is, what is he going to be in year 6, 7, 8? Is he going to be, not Mahomes? I mean, you can't compare him to Mahomes or Rodgers even. Is he going to be, Josh Allen, who's like, okay, this guy can win us some playoff games? Or is he going to be another interesting comparison is Andy Dalton? Andy Dalton's came out, and Carson Palmer, same kind of guy. First 4 or 5 years, wow, this is great. Give him the big contract. He plateaued, okay? And we'll see if guys like Matthew Stafford as well, if he can take the next leap. So am I encouraged? Yes, because it makes the last year make sense, okay? So for the Patriots basically to not tank, but not have a competitive roster last year. So when you go get Mac Jones, you're like, all right, we understand that Cam Newton is not the answer. We understand Jarrett Stidham is not the answer, or some other retread off the pile. Is Mac Jones going to be a successful NFL quarterback? I really think so. Is he going to be a superstar that can win you Super Bowls? Don't know. So obviously you have a different opinion, so let's hear about your Mac Jones opinion.
The question is you just said, Cam Newton is not the answer, but what's the answer? Or do you want to win a Super Bowl this year? Because
no, not possible.
See, last year Cam Newton had N'Keal Harry.
The worst collection of weapons in NFL history.
And they don't even have good running backs. He's got to run the ball. He can't pass the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to blame him for
You should blame him. He was
terrible, but
he can't throw the football. Okay, don't tell me about COVID. He can't throw the football. His shoulders messed up. He's a great locker room guy. Everybody else has that. But I don't know. You're telling me now, if you want to tell me the COVID fog had something to do with it or whatever, or the sister, you didn't have I just think he can't throw.
I think that with like Hunter Henry, Nelson Aguilar,
Johnny Smith, Kendrick Bourne as well.
Yeah, and then there's one more. I don't know if there's one more, but I think that's a good enough set. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl.
No.
No
chance.
It's 17 games this year, right? They changed it.
I know.
17.
It's going to be so hard to think of. What should they be? They should be 11-6 or 12-5.
Yeah,
or, you know?
It's, you can't go 500 anymore, so
yeah,
it's going to be, 9-8? I don't know. I just don't think that drafting a quarterback was a good idea.
I understand.
Holes in the defense. They picked up a couple of defensive linemen, a cornerback, was it Denzel Ward or Jalen Mills? That's who it was.
Jalen Mills, yep.
Who's not bad, but I mean, I haven't been a Patriots fan for a while, so I'm happy that they're terrible.
You're gonna regret that. We'll remember this one. No, I get that. No, they definitely have holes, and I'm thinking. I mean, this is the first time in a while I feel like they have a second round and a third round pick, or multiple third round picks. So I'm hoping tonight they go defense because offensive line's good, running backs are all right, wide receivers always take another one, but they're really bad at drafting wide receivers, as we've seen. N'Keal Harry and Aaron Dobson and Chad Jackson and everything. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of hope. I think most of the people in listening to talk radio this morning are like, I'm happy. We got a quarterback. We got somebody. No, is it Trevor Lawrence? Is it Zach Wilson, Trey Lance? No. But it's interesting. But it does end the Jimmy G discussions. I think that is over, not only because we drafted a QB, but because San Fran took Trey Lance from North Dakota State, who basically not only won AA quarterback, but it hasn't played in a long, long time. So there's no chance that he's going to get much playing time this year, unless Jimmy G, or especially when Jimmy G gets hurt. I'm not sad about that. I didn't want Jimmy G here, again, because he's not going to win you a Super Bowl either, unless you have a 49ers. They had a magical run that year. They had a great defense. So why have Jimmy G? Let's get a young guy, give him a shot there. But yeah, that's done, and Mac Jones is here, and we'll roll with it. I'm excited.
You'll be rolling for a long time. I don't
Who's going to win more games next year, the Atlanta Falcons or the New England Patriots?
The Atlanta Falcons.
What?
No matter how bad their defense is, because
Wow.
their defense is not bad. Let me tell you.
Defense is not bad. Didn't you guys blow multi-touchdown leads in the fourth quarter last year, second half?
Yes, but the offense is not scoring points. That's my point.
You saw offense was scoring like 30 points a game, and then Dan Quinn would,
I don't think we're a Super Bowl contender at all, but I think that our offense will be so good because I think we're going to re-sign Todd Gurley, even though he's trash. Nobody wants him. So
he's great in fantasy a few years ago. But
yeah. I think we'll have a very good offense. Defense is going to be trash, but it is what it is. And then I think we're over 500, not too much. We'll lose in the first round,
like usual.
Like Tampa.
I will say this though. I will say I think the Patriots have a better record. I think the Patriots go 11-7. Okay. The biggest difference is the divisions. Your division, the NFC South is horrible now. I mean, you have Carolina, who's totally rebuilding still. New Orleans lost Drew Brees. They're terrible. You do have Tampa Bay. Those are going to be 2 losses, obviously.
Oh, hold on.
Of course. They're going to go undefeated this year. Tampa Bay is probably going to go 16-1. The first team ever to have 22 of their starters back. They have every single starter back. Tom Brady's the best player in the history of sports. As much as I hated to see him win the Super Bowl, I hated and loved it. It was, but still, I don't see them losing more than 1 or 2 games unless they get injuries.
So here's my thing. Last season they went 11-5. Get the same starters. Why wouldn't it be the same?
Confidence, a year under their belt. Yeah, they'll be fine. Tampa Bay. It's going to be Tampa Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl. I have no doubt in my mind. I don't think there's anybody else, again, barring injuries in the AFC or NFC, that can touch those 2 teams right now. Now, 2 years from now, Tampa Bay I think is going to be horrible because Brady will eventually retire and all those guys will leave for other pastures. But boy, they get something cooking right now.
I don't know about Green Bay. I don't want Aaron Rodgers to leave. I can't picture Aaron Rodgers in a different uniform, but I mean, I'm trying to imagine Aaron Rodgers joining another team with more than one wide receiver.
Yeah, it'd be dangerous. Well, they always said the same about Brady. Look, they had no receivers here, and we still won 6, and he goes to Tampa Bay with 3 stud receivers, and they won the Super Bowl right off the bat. So, I don't really see many landing spots for Aaron Rodgers. Like I've heard Denver, I've heard the Raiders. I don't think those teams are a quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's a good segue. Actually, we're going to finish up our draft talk with the worst pick of the first round, which is kind of a yearly award now to the Las Vegas Raiders. This year they pick Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle, Alabama. Why is it a terrible pick? It's number 17. Most draft boards had him as a late second round pick.
Yep.
Now I don't know too much about Leatherwood, but it was just one of those great moments where they made the announcement and Goodell made the announcement. There's dead silence in the hall in Cleveland, and then they show the great picture of Mel Kiper just had this smirk on his face, like, "What are you doing?" Then Mike Mayock and John Gruden there.
Yeah.
They're, so that's for me that was the worst pick of the first round. I don't know if you had any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, not too many thoughts. Obviously, I think that Las Vegas had they had needs and they didn't meet those needs, and I'm not surprised they didn't meet those needs. There's always teams every draft who don't meet their needs.
Yeah. They want their guy. That's the thing. They say, "Oh, our guy's available at this time," and the Patriots are famous for doing this as well. But yeah, that seems just like a wicked reach.
I think my worst pick of the first draft is Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
It's for two reasons. One, they have Gardner Minshew. I know Gardner Minshew's not that great.
He makes $800,000 a year, which is not bad either.
Yeah, but he's just too young. I wouldn't want to rebuild a team off two young quarterbacks. You don't know who you're going to play. And I don't know if you've heard of this. They have Trevor Lawrence and his dad have made quotes about their careers, and Trevor Lawrence's dad is like, "Yeah, if Trevor walked away from football next year, he'll be fine, And Trevor's like, "I'm not the guy with the attitude to win a Super Bowl." I'm like, so who wants to draft somebody who probably gonna bust? Most of the first round picks are busts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Baker Mayfield is decent now. But,
yeah,
but
not Super Bowl winning probably.
I wouldn't want that guy on my team, and I think that with the first pick, you've got anybody. I mean, the Jags don't need wide receivers. They picked up Marvin Jones Jr. They had a couple guys.
They could have traded down and got a haul, though. They could have got multiple first-round picks. No, I agree. I'm not a huge Trevor Lawrence guy. Now, I haven't watched the other quarterbacks, up in the top of the draft, Wilson and Fields and the others. I haven't really watched them that much. But when I saw him from Clemson, I'm like, yeah, great college quarterback. Mm-hmm. But is that going to translate to the NFL? And you never know. And same thing with Mac Jones. These guys are playing on super teams.
Yeah.
And is that going to translate to the NFL when you watch their highlights and it's like, okay, well, yeah, he was able to scramble away from that guy from Mississippi State or Georgia Tech, but he's going to be able to scramble away from Aaron Donald. No, probably not. Nobody can, really. So, yeah, interesting. I don't know. The Jaguars is such a weird situation with Urban Meyer coming back, never really been an NFL coach.
Yeah.
I think that could be a big fail. They could end up in London in a few years. You never know, with their owner. But yeah, so interesting overall as we look toward the second and third round tonight. Hopefully, the Patriots go defense for me. Anything from the Falcons? What are you hoping they go for?
We have pick 35, I think.
Okay, so right up there. Yeah.
So, I mean, we've lost a couple guys. We still have Devin Jones, is pretty good inside linebacker. We lost Vic Beasley, who I loved. I remember when we had Don Terry Poe.
Yeah,
we know where he's ended up.
They've gone through a lot of retreads down there.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully a defensive player or an offensive line, because I think we lost Alex Mack, our center. So I don't know, somebody that just help out Matt Ryan, man.
But in general, the draft, I heard Dan Shaughnessy talking about this a lot. The NFL draft is the most overblown activity in history of sports. It's because, again, most of these guys, I mean, guys spend weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, all these talk radio guys and all these scouts doing it, and most of the guys end up being busts, or they end up being somewhere else in a few years. So, but it's interesting TV. I just wish it would start before 8 o'clock so I could actually watch the end of the first round. But because usually the Patriots are picking at the end of the first round and then they trade out, which is never a fun thing. But last night we got our quarterback. We'll see how it goes tonight. So just finishing up here, our first podcast here. Countdown to the end of the school year. So something non-sports related. What are you most excited about? June 11th is the last day of school. The last day of classes for kids, seniors, or even before that. So, what do you think about for the last month here? Obviously, you're going to do very well in sports journalism if you want a good grade. But in general, what are your thoughts here as we end this really, really weird year here at Thornton Academy?
I'm excited to do some of the boys lacrosse and girls lacrosse live streams we'll have. I haven't done one yet because of just some personal events and not being able to get to games. But I know we have a good amount left in the schedule, so that'll be fun. I'm excited. I think most of my teachers are doing no finals this year.
There will not be an official finals thing.
Yeah,
that's
no
official.
official finals.
Which I like those that week. It's a half day every day. I mean, who doesn't want that? But
yeah, but I think my teacher's gonna be pretty nice about that, which will be nice. And I don't think anything's gonna be super hard. So I'm just excited to get down to the end of the year and get back to summer life. Summer life is good for me because usually all I do is hang out and then I work.
Where do you work?
Ken's Seafood Restaurant in Scarborough.
Oh my goodness, we're gonna have to get them to sponsor.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with Ken's. A quick thing, like I don't go there very often because if I'm not gonna eat there, it's like a solid 20-minute drive back home.
Yep.
And no matter how good fried seafood is, it's not great after 20 minutes sitting in a bag in my car.
Yeah.
And the line is always so long, which is a good thing. I mean, but I've had it a couple times and it's crazy good. So.
Yeah.
So if you see Zach at Ken Seafood, give him a shout out here.
Yeah.
I just want to finish up with the athletic streaming schedule. Zach mentioned we're doing some games. So just in the next week or so, May 5th, which is this Wednesday, girls lacrosse against Biddeford. That's at 4:30. May 8th on Saturday, boys lacrosse against Wyndham. That's a 10 o'clock a.m. start. And then Monday and Tuesday, May 10th and 11th, girls lacrosse Kennebunk at 4:30 and boys lacrosse Falmouth at 5 o'clock. That's going to be a big game here. That's Tuesday the 11th. But the first one on May 5th on Wednesday, girls lacrosse against Biddeford, Battle of the Bridge, lacrosse style. Well, that's going to do it here for our first podcast. We want to appreciate you joining us. Please share it out. And if you're a student listening and you want to do your own podcast or interested in joining us for one, please reach out to Zach Taranko or me, Jeff Christenbury. I'm in the New Media Center, FA 141. Other than that, stay safe, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks very much.